Let me tell you what happens when you finally see through someone's mask. It's not just about catching them in a lie or spotting an inconsistency in their story. No. It's about that moment when you pierce through the illusion they've so carefully crafted, and you look into their eyes, and for the briefest second, you see the fear, the raw terror that comes with the realization that their secret is out, that their facade is shattered, the mask is no longer in place, and the person they've been pretending to be is exposed for all to see. And in that moment, everything changes, because you didn't just expose a lie. You exposed their entire existence, the crumbling structure that was holding them. Up the web of deceit they were relying on to maintain their control over the situation and over you. When you expose their facade, it's not just their reputation that's on the line, it's their very identity. The persona they've been projecting to the world is nothing but a fragile construct that's been carefully maintained for years. It's a false narrative they've spun to make themselves seem untouchable, unflappable, and perfect. But beneath that polished surface, beneath the confidence and the calculated words, lies a different reality. One full of insecurity, fear, and weakness. They've lived in constant anxiety that one day someone would see through it all. And when you finally do, when you strip away the layers they've built around themselves, you take away the very foundation that has held their power over you and others. Now they're terrified, not just because you know the truth, but because they have no control over the situation anymore. You've shifted the balance of power, and in that shift lies their downfall. They've been living in the illusion of dominance, and now that it's been shattered, they have nothing left to stand on. All the manipulation, all the lies, all the careful moves they made to maintain their position of authority crumble in an instant. And in the silence that follows, there's a deep fear that wells up from within them because they realize they're exposed for who they truly are. They're not the master of the game they've been playing. They're just another pawn in it. But unlike the rest of the pawns, they don't have the luxury of fading into the background. They're stuck in the spotlight, and there's no place to hide. You see, they've spent so long cultivating this image of perfection, this image of someone who is above reproach and unassailable. But in that one moment when the truth comes to light, they realize just how vulnerable they really are. Everything they've built their entire existence upon is fragile and brittle. And when you tear that down, they're left with nothing but the raw truth of their own inadequacies, their own lies, and their own fears. It's a terrifying place to be, because once you expose someone's facade, you're not just revealing their secrets, you're revealing the truth about their character, their weaknesses, their flaws, and all of the things they've tried so desperately to hide from the world and from themselves. The terror they feel is not just because you know what they've done, it's because they know that now everyone else might know too. They've always relied on the trust and belief of others to maintain their image. But now that you've peeled back the curtain, they can't hide behind the illusion anymore. They can't manipulate people into seeing them the way they want to be seen. They can't play the role they've been rehearsing for so long, because you've shattered it into a million pieces. And in that shattering, you've taken away their ability to control the narrative. They can't spin their lies anymore. They can't weave their web of deceit, because the truth is out there and the damage has been done, and there's nothing they can do to undo it. This is what happens when you expose someone's facade. You take away their power, their sense of superiority, and you reduce them to the terrified, vulnerable person they truly are. They're no longer the confident figure they once were. They're no longer the person everyone looked up to or admired. They're just a person exposed for all their flaws and their weaknesses to see. And in that moment, they know they've lost everything. Everything they've worked so hard to protect and maintain has crumbled beneath the weight of the truth, and they're left with nothing but the fear of what comes next. The moment you expose their facade is the moment their world starts to unravel, and they know it. They can feel it. They can see the cracks forming, and they can do nothing to stop it. Because the truth has already been spoken, and there's no taking it back. They know that once the truth comes to light, there's no going back to the way things were. They can't go back to pretending to be something they're not. They can't go back to hiding behind the mask they've created. They're exposed, and in that exposure lies their ultimate fear, because once you know the truth, once you've seen through the mask, they can never fully hide from it again. And that realization is what terrifies them more than anything else. And let's not forget how they'll try to fight back, how they'll try to claw their way back into the shadows and regain the control they once had. They'll try to manipulate, they'll try to lie, they'll try to twist the narrative, but they'll never be able to do it the same way they did before. Because you've seen the cracks, you've seen the truth. And no matter how much they try to cover it up or disguise it, you will always know what they really are underneath the mask. The fear, the vulnerability, the lies that have been holding them up for so long. And no matter how many times they try to rebuild their facade, it will never be as strong as it was before, because you've exposed them. And in doing so, you've shown them just how fragile they really are. You have taken away their armor and revealed them for who they truly are. And that is something they can never escape from. No matter how hard they try, no matter how much they scramble to put the pieces of their broken facade back together, they will never be able to recover from the fear of being exposed. They will never be able to regain the power they once had, because you have taken that power from them. In that moment of clarity, when you saw through the mask, when you saw them for who they truly are, you took away their control and left them powerless. And now they will live in constant fear that someone else might see through them too and expose them once again. You've turned the tables, you've taken away their advantage, and now they are forced to live in the world they've created for themselves, the world of lies and deceit. And every step they take from this point on will be filled with the haunting fear that they might slip up, that they might be exposed again, that someone else might see the truth that you uncovered, and they'll be left with nothing but the cold dread of knowing that their facade has been cracked beyond repair, and that they'll never be able to put it back together in the same way. So let them be terrified, let them squirm, let them try to regain control, because deep down, they know the truth. You know, the truth. And nothing they do can ever change, that you've exposed them, and in doing so you've stripped away their power and left them vulnerable in a way they never thought possible. And now, they'll live with the fear that comes with being seen for who they truly are. And there is no worse fate than that. And when you've exposed someone's facade, you've given them a curse that lingers in their mind, a shadow that follows them everywhere. They will live haunted by the fear that someone else might do what you did, that someone else might see through the lies they've woven, the web they've so carefully constructed, and bring it all crashing down. The beauty of it, though, is that this terror becomes their constant companion, lurking behind every conversation, every interaction, every calculated move they make. They will never again move through the world with the same ease, the same confidence, because the knowledge that they've been seen for what they truly are eats away at their soul. They might try to rebuild, to hide behind another mask, but the cracks will always show. They'll never be able to fully bury the truth, and that's the power you now hold. You've taken away their illusion of control, and in that act, you've bound them to the very thing they fear the most, their own vulnerability. You see, when someone's power comes from deception, from the construction of a persona that is designed to deceive, the moment that persona is exposed, it's not just their reputation at stake. It's everything they've ever believed about themselves. They can no longer hide behind a well-crafted story. They are no longer the hero in their own narrative. In that moment of exposure, they are forced to confront a brutal reality, the reality of their own inadequacy. They are nothing but a fragile being, like the rest of us, incapable of sustaining the lie that has been their armor for so long. Their fear is not just of being exposed, it's of being nothing. Because once you've taken away their mask, what are they? Who are they? They are left with a shell, a hollowed out version of themselves that they can no longer maintain. They realize that without the facade, there is no substance, no foundation. There is only fear. And here's the thing. Fear doesn't just make them weak, it makes them dangerous. You've exposed their vulnerabilities, and now, desperate to reclaim what they've lost, they will lash out, they will manipulate, they will deceive, and they will try to twist the truth, to rewrite the narrative in their favor. But every time they try to do that, they will fail. Not because the world is necessarily against them, but because they know deep down that they are no longer the master of the game. They are no longer the puppet master, pulling the strings from the shadows. They are the puppet, caught in the same web of lies they once so effortlessly controlled. The terror they feel in that realization is not just the terror of being seen, it's the terror of knowing that the power they once had is slipping through their fingers, and they can't stop it. They can't control the outcome because the game has changed, and you are the one who changed it. They will try to act as though nothing has happened. They will put on their best face and carry on as though everything is normal. But underneath it all, they will be on edge. Every glance, every whispered conversation, every sideways look will remind them of what they've lost. And with every passing moment, they will grow more paranoid, more desperate. Because the truth is, once you've exposed someone's facade, there is no going back. They can't rebuild the trust they once had. They can't go back to their comfortable illusion. It's like a house of cards. Once the first one falls, the rest follow. And as they watch their world crumble, they will try to pull themselves together, but it will be futile. The pieces won't fit anymore. The mask will never sit as comfortably as it once did, and they will always be haunted by the specter of their own fear. But here's the real power you now hold. You have already won. They might not fully realize it yet, but you've already taken everything from them. The truth has been spoken, and it cannot be unsaid. The mask has been ripped away, and they cannot put it back in place. No matter how many times they try to reassert control, they will always be aware that you have seen them for who they truly are. They will know that you have seen the raw, vulnerable version of them that they have worked so hard to keep hidden. And that awareness, that terror, will eat away at them. It will make every victory they try to claim feel hollow. Every success will feel like a lie, because deep down, they will know they are standing on unstable ground, and it's only a matter of time before the next shoe drops. This is the true power of exposure. It's not just about the truth being known, it's about the consequences of that truth. Once the facade is stripped away, everything they've built their identity upon crumbles. They become a shadow of themselves, desperately trying to rebuild, but never quite able to regain what they lost. They will try to rebuild their reputation, try to salvage their relationships, but it will never be the same. People will start to see them differently. Their once loyal followers will begin to question their motives, their actions, their integrity. And once doubt creeps into people's minds, it's almost impossible to erase. The truth may lie dormant for a time, but it will never truly go away. It will always linger, waiting for the right moment to re-emerge, and when it does, it will remind everyone of who they truly are. The fear they feel is rooted in the knowledge that they can't erase the damage that's been done. They can't undo the truth. They can't pretend it didn't happen. And no matter how much they try to shift the focus, no matter how much they try to deflect, they will always be looking over their shoulder, wondering if someone else will expose them again. This fear is a poison, one that slowly eats away at their mind and soul until they are no longer the person they once were. They become a hollow shell, a version of themselves that exists only in the shadow of what they used to be. And in that emptiness, in that constant fear of exposure, they lose themselves. But there is a power that comes with this exposure. The power you hold is the power of truth. You've seen them for what they are, and you have the knowledge that they can never escape. The facade is gone, the mask is shattered, and they are left with only their raw, unfiltered self. You have stripped them of the illusion they so desperately clung to, and in doing so, you have exposed the very heart of their terror. And that terror, that raw fear, is something they will never be able to escape. They will carry it with them for the rest of their lives, knowing that you know the truth. And the beautiful thing is that once you've exposed their facade, you no longer need to fear them. They are no longer a threat because you hold the power of knowledge. You know their secret. You know their weakness. You know that beneath the mask, they are nothing but a person trying to survive, trying to keep their world intact. And that knowledge is power. You don't need to do anything more. You don't need to seek revenge. You don't need to tear them down further. They will do that to themselves. Their own fear will eat away at them, and they will ultimately destroy themselves, one decision at a time. You have already won. The victory was not in the moment of exposure, but in the aftermath. The fear they feel now, the constant terror that you will speak the truth to someone else, to anyone else, will be enough to drive them to madness. Because once someone's mask is gone, once their carefully constructed reality has been shattered, they are exposed, vulnerable, and they can never return to the illusion. They will live in the fear that someone else will do to them what you did, and that will be their punishment. And so, as they try to rebuild their world, as they scramble to reassert control, just know this: the battle is over. You've already exposed their facade, and they will never be the same again. The fear they feel, the terror of being seen for who they truly are, will follow them for the rest of their lives, and that fear will be their undoing. You don't need to fight them anymore. You've already won. You have exposed them for what they truly are, and in that exposure, you've broken them. And in breaking them, you've taken away the one thing they had left, their power over you, and the fear that once held you in their grip. Now they are terrified. And you are free. Free from the chains they once wrapped around your mind. Free from the weight of their manipulation. Free from the lies they fed you, the fear they tried to instill in you. You are free in a way they will never understand, because while they are consumed by the terror of their exposure, you stand on the other side of that truth, unburdened and unshackled. The moment you tore their mask away, you also tore away the veil that kept you trapped in their world. You are no longer a puppet in their game, no longer playing by their rules, no longer fooled by their illusions. You are free, and that freedom is something they will never experience again. The freedom you now possess is not just a physical one. It is a mental and emotional liberation that they will never know. You see, when someone lives their life through lies, when they build an entire existence on deception, the cost is immense. They may seem untouchable, powerful, invulnerable, but underneath all of that, they are chained by their own creations. They are bound by the need to maintain the lie, to uphold the illusion, and every day they live in fear of being exposed. It's a never-ending cycle of anxiety, of guarding their secret, of making sure no one sees the truth. It's exhausting, draining, and ultimately, It destroys them from the inside out. They live in constant vigilance, constantly worried that someone will see through them, constantly terrified that someone will do exactly what you did, strip away the mask and reveal them for who they truly are. But you don't have to live like that. You don't have to constantly fear being exposed. Because the truth is, you've already been freed from that. You've already seen the power of truth and what it can do. When you exposed their facade, you didn't just break their illusion. You broke the chains that held you captive in their world. You tore down the walls they built around you, the mental and emotional prisons they constructed, brick by brick, with every lie, every manipulation, every half-truth. And now, as you stand in the light of your own truth, you realize the extent to which they controlled you, how deeply they had woven themselves into the fabric of your reality. They made you doubt yourself. They made you question your worth. They made you believe you were powerless, that you were at their mercy. But that was all part of the game, part of the illusion they wanted you to buy into. They needed you to believe they were the ones with all the power, the ones in control. But now, you see it for what it was, a facade, a carefully constructed lie designed to keep you under their control. And now that you've seen through it, you realize you were never powerless. You were always free. You just needed to wake up and see it. This is the power of exposure. This is what it does. It doesn't just tear down the person behind the facade. It doesn't just destroy the illusion. It frees everyone who was caught in it. It frees you from their web, their control, their power. And when you realize that freedom, when you understand the weight that has been lifted from your shoulders, it becomes impossible to go back to the way things were. You can never unsee the truth, and that is a gift that they will never have. Because as much as they may try to rebuild their world, as much as they may scramble to regain their position, they will always be haunted by the knowledge that you know the truth. They can never unmask themselves in front of you again, and they can never forget that they have been exposed for what they truly are. They will spend every waking moment trying to recapture their power, trying to regain control, but it will never be the same. They will always be looking over their shoulder, waiting for the next person to see through them. Because once the truth has been spoken, it has a life of its own. It can't be undone. They can't erase it. It becomes part of who they are, part of their identity. It's like a scar that they can never heal. And no matter how much they try to act like they've regained control, the fear will always be there, lurking just beneath the surface. The fear that someone else will see them for what they are. The fear that someone else will expose them again. But for you, that fear no longer exists. The terror they now face will never touch you. You have already stepped out from under their shadow, and in doing so, you've gained something that is priceless. Self-respect, self-trust, and freedom. You don't need their approval anymore. You don't need their validation. You've seen the truth, and that truth has set you free. And with that freedom comes an unshakable sense of power. Because when you know the truth, when you understand the game for what it is, no one can ever hold power over you again. They may try to manipulate, they may try to control, but they will never succeed. Because you are no longer a pawn in their game. You are no longer a victim. You are the one who holds the power now. Think about that for a moment. Think about what it means to live in that kind of freedom. To know that no one can ever manipulate you again. That no one can ever deceive you again. That no one can ever hold you in their grip again. They may try. They may attempt to weave their lies and their stories, but you will see through them every single time. You will be able to recognize the facade before it even fully forms, and when you do, you will walk away. You will stand firm in your own truth, knowing that you are not beholden to anyone else's lies, anyone else's illusions. You are free, and that freedom is yours to keep. Now, as you move forward in your life, as you continue on this path of self-discovery and self-empowerment, you will find that the world begins to change. The way people treat you will shift. The way they look at you will change. No longer will they see you as someone they can control, someone they can deceive, someone they can manipulate. They will see you for who you truly are. A person who has seen the truth, who has stepped into their own power, and who can no longer be fooled. They will respect you, not because you demand it, but because they know that you are not someone to be underestimated. You are not someone to be manipulated. You are someone who knows their worth, someone who stands firm in their truth, and in that, you become untouchable. Not in the way they once were, hiding behind a mask of perfection, but in the way that is infinitely more powerful, because you are real, you are authentic, you are free, and in that freedom, you will find a strength that is unmatched. You will no longer need to fear the lies of others. You will no longer be afraid of what they think or of what they might try to do. The power to shape your own reality is now in your hands. You have learned that you do not need to be trapped by the illusions of others. You have learned that the truth is the key to your liberation. And with that knowledge, there is no limit to what you can achieve. You can rise above the manipulations and the lies, and you can create a life that is based on your own principles, your own values, and your own truth. But remember, while you are free, while you are unburdened, the one thing you must never forget is the lesson you've learned. The lesson of exposure, the lesson of seeing through the mask, the lesson of knowing that the truth is your greatest weapon. Keep that knowledge close to you and never let it go. Because as long as you remain true to yourself, as long as you stay grounded in your own reality, no one will ever be able to take your freedom from you. They can try, they can deceive, they can manipulate, but they will never succeed, because you now know the truth, and that truth will always set you free. They are terrified now, and they will continue to be terrified. But you are free, and that is a power they will never understand. In the end, the truth you uncovered is not just a weapon against their facade, it's the key to your freedom. While they remain trapped in the terror of their exposure, you stand unshackled, empowered by the clarity and strength that come with knowing who you truly are. They can no longer control you, deceive you, or manipulate you, because you have seen through their lies, and that knowledge has set you free. You are no longer a pawn in their game, but the one who holds the power to shape your own destiny. And that, ultimately, is the greatest victory of all.